Hello? So serious with this. Hello, everyone. I'm kidding. Sorry. Hello. Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hola.
Can you hear me? Are you ready? Okay, so I want everyone to just like stand up. Okay? Okay, so let's just like let's stretch out our necks a little bit. Okay, up and then down. Up and down, side to side. And then a big circle. And then the other direction. Okay. All right, so today's gonna be a really long day, all right? So just want to prepare you a bit. Okay. All right. So today it's gonna be me and Paula, and we're gonna be switching between our computers a bit and also playing some videos and also presenting a lot of like historical information about this trans-tech feminist biofriction scene. So yeah, but first I'm going to talk about my personal research. So my name is Mary Magic, and I'm from Los Angeles, but now I'm based in Vienna. And a lot of my research is about this molecular colonization that is affecting our bodies, bodies of non-human species, and also the planetary. So the way it started was actually in 2015. I got really interested in estrogen and how estrogen is a molecule that is basically controlling, regulating, and managing our bodies at the institutional level. So the first thing I did was I asked myself, well, what is estrogen? So I typed in estrogen into Google image search, and these are the images that show up. So I took a screenshot. So you can see like a lot of the images are about like femininity, like increased breast size, smoother skin, some weight loss. But then you also see lots of pictures of pills, pills that are coming from the pharmaceutical industry. So you see birth control pills, hormone replacement pills, pills for menopausal women. So I found this really interesting because our main relationship with hormones is actually from pharmaceutical industry or from your doctor. So when I think of a pill, I think of something that is a black box that's very abstracted. It's very hard to hack a pill, right? Imagine like you hack your phone or you hack your computer, at least you can open it and look inside. But with pills, it's like, how do you hack this? And then to push it even further, how do you hack the idea of gender? Because now we have these ideas that, okay, estrogen produces femininity and testosterone produces masculinity. But what does that even mean? Like, what does femininity mean and what does masculinity mean? And these are just constructs, but then they're so entrenched in our culture that it's like very, very hard to deconstruct, right? So I was really interested in these topics and also how we can hack at the scientific level, but also at the social cultural level. Then later on, I got more interested in how there's all these industrial molecules in our environment that are actually acting like hormones. So I'm framing this as a kind of molecular colonization because the idea is if we are colonized by all these molecules, then what does it mean to decolonize our bodies and the non-human and the planetary? Most of these molecules are coming from petrochemical agricultural and pharmaceutical industries. And it's to the point where, they find PCBs at the Marianas Trench, the deepest parts of the ocean. So there really is no person or organism that has the privilege to live without these molecules. We live in this permanently polluted world now. And just to give a little bit background about why this is happening, so at the molecular level, you have something called the estrogen receptor, which is this green molecule. And scientists say that this molecule is very promiscuous, which is kind of an interesting way to describe a molecule, but I think what they mean is that it's the opposite of selective. So that's why, all these molecules that are coming from industrial capitalism, they actually communicate to our receptors. And another interesting fact is that this receptor is the same receptor that we share with almost all animal taxa. So frogs, fish, birds, like all of these species, like we all have the same receptor. So it's a kind of like shared vulnerability that we all have, it's not only a human problem. So it's also kind of like a paradox of living in the Anthropocene, because all of these molecules are communicating to us, but we didn't intend for them to communicate to us. And the effects are they're not great. We have some neurological effects, like they connected to lower IQ, to autism, to mood disorders, to ADHD, to autism. And then there's also physiological symptoms like early onset puberty. So now we hear that lots of girls are starting puberty at age 8 or 9. And then for men, the sperm count has already dropped like 50%. And then we have like very rare cancers like cervical cancers, testicular cancers that are linked to these molecules. So part of the workshop today is trying to trace these molecules in our everyday lives. So we have kind of an activity later where we're gonna go just walk around and go to like a really cheap store or market or something, and we're gonna try to find these molecules because they're invisible, but actually they're part of our consumer culture, like everything that we buy, that we eat, what we wear, what we breathe, like it all has these molecules, so we're gonna try to find them. So now everything I said was like super like depressing and like the planet is, we're all going to suffer until we die, but no. Just as the body can be stolen, it can also be reclaimed, okay? So I'm gonna talk now about some of this hormone hacking stuff. So lots of ways to describe this practice, like we call it freak science or estrogen geeking, but I like to call it public amateurism. So this is one of my favorite terms from Claire Pentecost. She's a writer and an artist. And basically how she defines it is the process of learning and doing and failing in the public sphere. And so, and also removing the hierarchy of the expert and the layperson. So I think this is super interesting as a kind of cultural resistance, It's a form of alternative knowledge production. So imagine like learning like DNA extraction in your high school versus learning it from like crazy artists like Adam Zaretsky, Like I think that the way we produce knowledge, it has so much to do with the context that you're doing it. So yeah, I would like us to pay attention to this today. And then I just want to go over some of my personal influences. So I'm really interested in biopolitics and also like deinstitutionalizing science or demystifying science. So one of the artist collectives that I was really influenced by was Sub Rosa. So they were very active in the early 2000s as kind of like this cyber feminist collective. And they were doing lots of projects where they would perform biotechnology. So they would have like this expo, you know, an expo where it's like all these biotech companies are like trying to sell their product. So they were interested in like performing as these companies and like making these fictional products and trying to sell them to women. But then in the process, they're deconstructing the language of biotechnology and also raising awareness about like how bodies are commodified and stuff like that. So I really like them. And then there's Critical Art Ensemble, who needs no introduction. But I really like how they also turn organisms into hackable organisms. And for example, in this project, Molecular Invasion, I don't have a picture here, but they were working with the Monsanto soybean. And they found a way to reverse engineer it so it's not resistant anymore to the herbicide. And they did this in a museum, like in a public space, and they were actually like also failing a bit, and it was fine, but then they're showing that this organism is not just a black box, but it can be hacked, and it can be reverse engineered and used for cultural resistance. So I really like what they do as well. And then in 2014, I was really lucky to go to this event called Bacteria Lab in Yogyakarta, which is in Indonesia. And that's actually where I met Paula and the entire Bacteria network. And if you don't know this network already, they do stuff that is like very, very much public amateurism. Like it's all like a network of hackers, artists, designers, engineers, computer scientists, like just anyone can join Bacteria. But then there's this ethos of just like hacking in a very playful way, almost like a jam session. So we're always like meeting people from different backgrounds, but then like a jam session, we make some new project or some new investigation, and it's really cool. So it's a really like open way of doing science, and there's also this really big wiki of like, I don't know, like 300 different protocols already of like bioelectronics or like building a spectrometer or, yeah, there's so many things. So it's a very, very good resource if you're just starting. And then that's where I met Paula and Clau and trans-hack feminists. And then, I don't know, should I show the film first and then the colorful film?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah, okay. So then, instead of explaining, I'm gonna show a film that I did in 2016. Because before I was doing hacking, I was actually a filmographer or documentarian. Can you turn on the sound, please? No? Oh, my computer is fucking up.
Try to plug it again.
Should I? Wait. Output. HDMI. Okay, let's try again.
Pero no, lo tienes que sacar por el otro, no por el HDMI. You have to put mini jack.
I thought it's in already.
Yeah, but if you put...
Sorry. I think now it works. Yeah, okay.
We were cleaning here today because of the toilets. This is like a social center where we will go to eat. We'll be here all day. This is the bar, the info point. We have to finish this. Some footer thing, and I can show you the bathroom. Normally we pee outside, in around. There's some couscous. Yes, this is from today. Couscous and so you can use this water. It's from the rainwater. These new machines that we bring here from other people.
Okay.
And they're from like goods things, like a carpinteria. And for instance, you see that building there? That's where the workers used to live. This kind of colony were like from the beginning of 19th century. This like kind of model of little, towns where people were living, working, everything was like gone.
Church is here.
I like this.
Y esto es muy grande, ¿no?
Una de estas abajo.
Y arriba ya. Voy a preguntar por lista. Claro.
Esto casi
Adentro. O sea, cortado aquí y puesto aquí. And the idea is like we want to make it autonomous energetically and also like with ecological. Yeah, people like us, they don't mind to come here and be like in, it's not like Finnish, like very. I mean, it's nice and it's okay for sleeping, but can be more set it up. When we make this kind of events, I was like thinking, well, it's gonna be nice to have some money to pay the travel expenses of the people because I want to have people from different places, no? And this year is like it's happened, and I'm like, wow, the dream is coming true, no? Like, and this is like, wow, I'm super excited on that look.
Bien, está bien, mojado. Muy bien, yo he traído un montón de cubiertos para regalarlos.
Space behind that is not visible. It's raining inside.
conecta la parte, como digamos, sexual y la parte del corazón.
En medicina china se habla del océano que está alentado por el sol. El océano son los riñones y el sol es el corazón.
Ok. Vamos a ver.
Concentrar, focus aquí y sobre todo lo que tiene que ver con sentir el peso del cuerpo, el peso del seno, el peso del culo. Estamos ya sintiendo ganas de mear, el peso de la vejiga.
Obviamente es reciclar y expandir el número de microorganismos saludables como los probióticos, reciclar y expandir, pues o sea, coger y volver a comer, ¿no? Entonces, no, sería un feedback loop de generating of symbiotic interactions of quantum moments. Para embarazar otra vez.
What's interesting is that we house a lot of diversity of microorganisms, but in the lab we try to separate them and isolate them. And also the yogurt is not just one bacteria, it's multiple bacteria. So it's an interesting process because here we're going to start looking for single types.
Now we can close. How many times?
Y te mesuras el pH. Y después coges esto y lo pones dentro. Si me abres el 1. ¿El qué, amor? El 1, la prueba. Y más como... Pero te lo hablo cuando vengas para acá.
Como que ay, te dan un
And you put top, haces así, ¿no? Como si te estaríamos tocando.
con un palillo.
Ya.
Entonces es suficiente.
Esto sujeta.
El papelito del pH que pongo dentro o
Me da miedo raspar contra las paredes.
dentro con un dedo.
Raspalo bien. Vale. Un diseño un poco más guay, esto es una mierda. Entonces, ¿quién más?
Marta, ¿quién más?
Marta. Y haces como así.
Okay, take care of the blood.
Bajando. Keep it here with...
A ponerlo aquí antes que directamente y después ya donde estaba el orto.
Y yo, no se sabe.
Hacer una fiesta en el Miguel.
Anarca, Lucy y Betsy, porque él las nombra. ¿Vale? Porque en esa época en Estados Unidos, con la esclavitud, bla, bla, pues cada estado tenía un código negro que le llamaban, o el Slavery Code, ¿no? El código de esclavos, que era en el fondo cómo se regían, pues yo qué sé, cómo tenían que regirse los esclavos, ¿no? Y pues me leí el de Alabama, y el de Alabama...
And then put this also. Hello. Wow, too many emotions coming to my body. I feel really, many vibrational quantum moments of like desire, love, sharing, caring. So, yeah, one of the things like I think like we were doing from the beginning, for me, kind of beginning is 2011, when we were in Gijón. Pedro Soler from this place, from Hangar, was organizing a summer lab there. So they were with this idea to mix like hackers of technologies, let's say like more like hardware, software, with gender and trans feminism groups in Barcelona. So from there we were also with Oskov. We were having this like middle table, like interface between the two groups. So from there were many things, many things that they were growing from that point, and also in contact with ecosexual movement that they were also being in Barcelona, and then they were also having a wedding. They make wedding with nature, like they take like a contest of, for example, stones, and they invite people from each city where they go, and then develop performance together. And at that point, we start also to work more in the context of this project I show now. This was something like I was researching in this place in Laboral. It's called biosensing. From that point, I was really being like freaking out with many DIY protocols and circuits. And actually, at that point, I know Gaia, this here. We met in feminist anarchist party, and we were talking about photosynthesis the whole night long. At this point, I was just going inside these programs to do sensors and everything, and then we met also the people from Hackteria. I mean, Andy Grace, and he was also in this community, in this place in Gijón, and then we were remoting nodes Marc Duchelier from Hackteria Network, and from that point I was really like, we were starting to do microscopes everywhere, like, and doing workshops everywhere. And after we were collaborating with many of we were doing Aquelarre Cyborg actually here in Hangar, 2013, something like that, no, in 2013. And then it's like cyber witches. We were playing with plants, noise, body noise, with there was like needles on the body, and sound with plants. And yeah, this was actually Quimera Rosa. They were also like before the performance here. They were the unofficial first residents in Calafell. We were preparing the performance in Calafell. So in this place that you were showing there. Of course, when I was also living there, we were doing like this day-by-day technologies. So I was not really going too further with like let's say more artistic career or something. We were just thinking what we do, so we do what we need. So at that point, because we have this river, we call it Paranoia River. It's Anoia River. And actually when we go to this event that Mary was saying before in Indonesia, we were just pumping up like different, we were like interested on sex ecology,
But also we were talking about the environment and the ecology of our river, because actually it was having also a lot of estrogens. If you see the pictures there was like queer people, and we were joking that the queer people goes to the river and then they become more queer because they get like the hormones from the river. And these hormones in this place, in this concrete place, they come from the leather industry that is in, how is the place? Igualada, because they have many industries. So we were there just thinking that, so now it's great. We have this also an event, this hack meeting is about, again, hackers, but more computed based. So on that, at that point, we were also implemented with the microscope, looking in the river, like we were having like this really like interest of not caring, but mapping and probably like, yeah. But at that point, at some point, I was just really like thinking, fuck, we cannot do anything. If these people doesn't stop to throw it away, the shit, we can't really, we can be here like mapping and doing and blah, 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 but where are the laws and I mean, like our ecological, not our, but from the state. I mean, like, it should be private that the people throws away the shit as they do. No? So there was also a stinky river. It was also having bacteria, and yeah, I was not on the presentation on Tuesday, but also Soshi now is living there, and yeah, it's a really shitty situation. The space is nice, but ecological is like a really like damage, like post-industrial. You see the pictures, it's not because the places were falling down, but also because the area is a bit like a shit. No? So from that interested, and the interested of plants, and the interested of biology, we were starting this biolab, and I was just thinking to make this bioelectrochemistry lab. We come with this Perlenda lab, interdisciplinar experimental bioelectrochemistry hard lab tras hack feminista. And yeah, you see the space where the people that were taking when Gaia was taking the samples, this was the kind of lab, room, place open to people, come, hack with us. Laura was also there at that point. Yeah, for me, like, there is a test also over the table, I can share it later. Sashiko and Urs, they really wrote a nice test about lab making as an act of love. For me, this like following this idea to build labs everywhere was starting like, yeah, actually, at the beginning, the labs, they were in the suitcases, like many components there, you go to some place, you do a workshop. But then we were having this space in Calafo was nice because we were doing many events. And then, yeah, later I'm thinking to, yeah, put a document with all the links, then you can go further because there is many information I will not give now because we can be here forever. But one of the nice events, we make many nice events, but one of the nice ones was this bacteria. Then we saw the video. Nice to have Marian make this great video. And yeah, we were doing many workshops. Also, Sashiko was explaining to us. At that point, we were also like, I was already connected with bacteria. So some people from Sashiko from Switzerland, she's from Japan, but she was in Switzerland. She was coming, explaining us how to understand DNA. So years later, I know how to explain to young people. Now I'm doing like workshops to young people. There is also some, I can also show it later, about genetics, like basic genetics, like what is a PCR, how it works, and everything. And yeah, probably you have to, I continue. No, I continue with that. And yeah, one of the first, well, not the first, but in 2014, we make this, after of this Indonesia meeting, Hackteria Labs 2014, we make Transhack Feminist in Calafou, first time. What we were doing there was like make an autonomous server, the name is Anarcha server, and also Biolab Transhack Feminist and Xenoestrogen Technologies. So from the research that Clau was doing, we were starting to collaborate. We were also in residence here at the beginning, and then at some point, I start a bit more going into develop these sweet cases that they have like really basic lab equipment, like microscope, centrifuge, incubator, and then you have here all the documentation on the wiki. So this is like a personal wiki, the wiki that was, so for example, this is like a PCR machine, now it's super famous PCR. We can make PCR with circuits we were doing, and actually this is recycled from the all light devices from the walls. So also some of my practice is, not some, but all of my practice is really basic on degrowing and recycling. I mean, I recycle everything I can, and I reuse, and I give another life to things. So I'm kind of Diogenes. But then I explain people, I will use the materials at some point, and I know that because like we use for everything and also for running workshops, because one of the practice I do more is just sharing knowledge and do workshops. At the beginning, probably we are 2-3 people developing something, and then we go just to explain and to do like in sharing like this kind of amateur science, and also. This, for example, is like the kit at some point is many different ones. And okay. This was on the context of prototype and I think we switch to you. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So then in 2016, me, Paula, Gaia, and some other people, also some Hackteria people, we went to this event called Interactivos at Media Lab Prado in Madrid. And this was a really cool residency because we all applied first with like a project idea. So I applied with this open source estrogen idea, and then I just convinced Paula and Gaia to join this project, and we were hacking hormones. And we were doing some pretty dangerous shit. Like we were, I don't know if you can see, can I zoom in? As an artist working with hormones, it's really important for me to be able to visualize my medium, and molecules are invisible. So I was really interested how to extract the hormones. I'm going to tell you more about the protocols later. But I feel like from this residency, so many of my current ideas came from this one residency. So I think you'll notice like a theme throughout me and Paula's presentation, like you never know when you're planting a seed and the seed is growing like insanely big and bigger and bigger and bigger, because that's how I feel with this residency, or when I went to Hackteria Lab in Indonesia and met all these people. So I think like all of you are super young, and it's cool to like kind of explore as much as possible right now and try to like enter into communities and yeah, plant these seeds because you never know, it's gonna get so big and big and big. So I wrote this 6-point plan for hormone queering resistance, which is kind of based on the Critical Art Ensemble 7-point plan for cultural resistance. So I was really inspired by this. And in the context of hormones, I don't think I'm going to read everything because it's super long, but feel free to take a picture or a screenshot or something. But I want to call attention to the last one, which is number 6. Consider the microperformativity of hormones as an agential power of not only molecular colonization, but also of molecular collaboration. So I started to think about how these molecules are just like everywhere around us, and it's ready to hack, actually. They're all ready to collaborate with us. And it made me think a lot about how we are evolving with and becoming with these molecules. Like they're becoming part of our bodies, part of our identities even. So the first protocol I was working on were these yeast biosensors. And this was just by accident because I had a friend, Josiah Zahner, who messaged me like in 2015 or 16. And then he's like, hey, did you know you can just buy this, this plasmid, this DNA that codes for the human estrogen receptor? I said, oh, that's interesting. So then I bought the plasmid, and then I transformed it into the yeast. And this is just like beer yeast, or yeah, just beer yeast. And then the yeasts are actually turning yellow when they come in contact with anything that is estrogenic. So it's not only the natural estrogens that we produce in our bodies, but also these industrial chemicals that are acting like hormones. So this was like really like revolutionary for me because finally I can visualize the communication that happens between the molecule and the receptor. And so the yeast are actually extensions of our bodies. They're letting us know like this is estrogenic. So that was really cool. And then this is a mobile lab because I was traveling and making workshops, and I just needed a way to pack everything in a kind of organized way. So I never got in trouble with the airport security, which I was really surprised because I was carrying like flammable things like methanol and ethanol and diethyl ether, and then I was also carrying like these petri dishes of transgenic yeast and like flying across the Atlantic Ocean, and they just didn't really care. So I was really surprised by this. And then the next protocol was what we worked on actually at Interactivos, which is the solid phase extraction. This is a really updated version. At Interactivos, we had more of like a big machine pump thing, but then this is what we're gonna perform today, actually. When we are, after we go to the store and we collect all of these products, we have to extract the toxicities out of the products. So we're gonna use these like special filters and also this like peristaltic pump you'll see later in the lab. And you can see the before and after. So in the after photo, you can see that the filter is like really dirty. So that's after collecting a river sample. So we're going to use those toxicities, and we're going to give them to the mushrooms, which I will explain later. And the next protocol that I was working on was actually a column chromatography method for extracting hormones from urine. And this one we worked on at Interactivos, and I remember we didn't have this like beautiful glass column that they use in the laboratory, so we decided, like me, Paula, Gaia, we had this like bottle of like wine that we finished the day before, and then we were trying to like break the top of the bottle, and I think Gaia was like using fire and like inside the institution, you know, so it was really, really funny. But then it evolved into this, yeah, I'll show some pictures. So here's the lab with the extraction equipment, like you see the peristaltic pumps, and you also see this glass column method. And here's like the pictures of workshops that I give on this urine extraction. And I really like the mess because the messiness is kind of this like counter resistance to like the whiteness of the laboratory, but also the whiteness of the gallery. So I really like creating this mess with random participants. And here's an example of what the hormones look like. So it's just like a brown, like sticky stuff. And then we go around like smelling each other's hormones that are coming from the urine. And it's really cool because like everyone has a different nose. Like we all have a different combination of receptors. So we all smell the same sample, but then one person's like, oh, it smells so disgusting, I want to throw up. And then the other person's like, oh, it smells really sweet, like candy or something. And then another person's like, actually, I don't smell anything. So it's really, really interesting. And then from this protocol, I made like a speculative fiction film about like these trans women who have their own cooking show. And they're teaching the audience how to extract the hormones from their urine. They can recycle their hormone therapy pills. So this is just like a speculative concept, but I wanted to combine all this like technical, scientific stuff with like more of like the cultural and try to imagine what we can do with a protocol like this. So I'm just gonna play a really short clip of the film.
Hello.
And welcome to our show.
I'm Maria.
And I'm Maria.
And we are
Housewives Making Drugs.
On today's show, Maria and I are going to show you lovely viewers at home how to get hormones without needing that pesky doctor's prescription.
That's right, Maria. We've concocted a recipe where we can reuse the estrogen that's naturally expelled from our bodies.
So you're saying that this recipe would allow us to circumvent the whole industrial medical complex?
And increase access to estrogen for trans women to gain radical body autonomy.
Wow. By sharing hormones and tapping into new systems of interdependent community?
And taking the phrase, sharing is caring, to a whole new level.
Wow. What do we need to make all of this happen?
This, ladies and gentlemen, non-binary, agender, and gender non-conforming folks, is the Estrofeminizer.
The only tool a real estrogen hacker needs to do her deed.
The best part is, all these ingredients are cheap and easy to find.
Just how I like my men.
It's made up of silica gel and cigarette filters layered inside a modified glass bottle.
As you can see, I found these items after a heavy night of drinking and smoking.
Never mind that overpriced laboratory equipment. This is a DIY contraption for all you biohackers out there.
What? Whoa, hold up. Biohacking? That sounds scary.
Well, no, just think of it as something as simple as making beer or wine or even cheese.
Okay, Maria, so you're saying that we have always been biohackers?
Exactly, Maria. So to get started, we're gonna need just one more very special ingredient.
And we will tell you right after a quick but essential break.
Yeah, the special ingredient is urine. You can find the film online, just type in Housewives Making Drugs. And so I used the same urine protocol in a different project called Molecular Queering Agency. And this one's also like a speculative fiction project. Like it's a fictional agency that is guiding the participants towards the process of queering. And the reason why I came up with this was, I was doing workshops a lot and I was teaching people how to extract hormones from urine. And I just felt like people were feeling really bad about their bodies because after hearing about all of the toxicities and like how we cannot avoid them and how it's like changing our bodies and changing our gender, and it always felt like people were more in fear or in panic after these workshops. And so I started to explore more like performance elements in my workshops and incorporating this like hormone hacking like into performance style. So in Molecular Queering Agency, everyone's wearing these like masks, these oxygen masks that are connected to hormones. And this is a really crucial part of the performance because none of us really consent to live in a toxic world. We're just born in this world, and then all of a sudden, like, we cannot escape these toxicities. But then putting on these masks that are connected to these foreign molecules, it's a way to say, to offer the consent, to say, like, do you want to be more alien than you already are? So I was figuring out all these ways to, like, make people feel safer in their bodies. And so actually just last month or a couple weeks ago, I did another molecular queering agency performance, but actually in a larger scale with 10 people. And we did this like choreograph thing with like a big urine sculpture in the middle of this park, public park in Zurich. And we had costumes, we had the logo Molecular Queering Agency, and we were just doing these like kind of body movements and connecting them with a mantra so that the mantra becomes embodied. So one of our mantras is, purity is not an option, which is actually a quote from Anna Singh, who wrote The Mushroom at the End of the World. So purity is not an option. I really like this quote because it's really saying that we need cross-contamination in order to survive. And now with the pandemic and corona and everything, like everyone's like, oh no, I don't want to touch you, I don't want to be infected, which, you know, I understand, but it's also making us more, like we're more afraid of mutation, of change, of, you know, being porous bodies. So I thought this was a really relevant time to make this performance, so I'm really happy with it. And finally, we have the last protocol, which we're going to do today, which is the fungi workshop. So this was actually born here at Hanger. So in 2000, okay, this is wrong. It should say 2017. Yeah. I did a residency with Paula and also Ryan Hammond, and called Prototypome Residency. And we were exploring the relationships between mushrooms and toxicities and all these different entanglements. So we have a really cool fanzine that we can pass around. So this is a fanzine from the residency. And then we also have like smaller copies that we can do. So we were researching this one species called Schizophylum Commune. And the reason why it's called commune is because it's the most commonly found mushroom in the world. So it's existing at like super like cold temperatures, but also super warm temperatures and like different altitudes. And another thing that's interesting is that it has over 22,000 different sexes. So it's a super queer organism, and it's probably evolved to have so many sexes in order to survive. And so we were doing all kinds of different experiments, like we were boiling plastics and like feeding it to the mushrooms. We were trying to grow it in like coconut water. That's why there's a coconut that's on fire in Hanger in the lab. And then we also were doing this solid phase extraction with the peristaltic pumps. We also were trying to grow the mushroom in urine. And so we did a workshop actually, yeah, with the urine and with the mushrooms. But we were most interested in the enzymes of the mushroom because they're able to break down these toxicities. So why does this happen? So these enzymes are a class of enzymes called lignocellulitic enzymes. And if you see on the right side, the organic side, so these enzymes are responsible for breaking down cellulose and lignin. So that's why you see these mushrooms growing on trees that are dead. And if you look on the other side, the synthetic side, these are molecules that are plastic. So these enzymes actually are breaking these chains, so making them into smaller pieces. So that's actually what's happening. So the same enzymes that break down the organic are also able to break down the synthetic. So we thought like, wow, this is a really interesting like accidental entanglements that the mushroom has with our, human-produced industrial toxicities. So we want to explore this more. And so we kind of created this workshop protocol where we're extracting toxicities that are from everyday consumer products, and then we're feeding them to the mushrooms. So this is a picture from the workshop we did in 2017 in Zurich. I think that's wrong, somewhere else in Switzerland. And so you see, we have some cleaning products, we have cosmetics, we have some microplastics. So we're gonna try to find these today when we go on the walk. And then every participant, they plated their own petri dish with the mycelium. And you can see that the agar is blue, right? So this is part of the protocol that we're gonna do today. We're gonna make these plates with this blue color. And this blue color is actually a toxic molecule because it's one of these molecules for making blue jeans. And then there's many stories of the blue jean factory, and it's all the toxicities are going into the local river. So it's mostly because of this, this blue color. But we know that the mushrooms are able to break down this blue color. So that's why you see that it's going from blue to orange over 2 weeks or something. So it's kind of like an indicator. So that's why we have these blue petri dishes. We're trying to see the activity of the enzymes. But then me and Ryan, we had another hypothesis, which is okay, if we make this, we're gonna call it a Xenoestrogen Cocktail from all of these consumer products. So what if we make a cocktail of all of this shit that we buy and we consume, and we feed it to the mushrooms? Will the mushrooms actually decolorize faster without the toxicities, or with the toxicities? So we're gonna have a control, which is just the blue color without any of the consumer products. And then we're gonna have the experimental plate, which is with the toxicities. It's echoing. And and then everyone's gonna take home a plate, and then maybe we start a group on Telegram or something, and everyone should post pictures of their plates, because we want to see the changes from blue color to orange color, and this is showing the activity of the enzymes. And then I also used this method in artistic way. So this was from a river investigation residency that I did in Indonesia. I think maybe Chris and Regina from Art Lab already explained this project, so maybe I don't explain it. But then I also made this mandala from all of the trash I collected from the river. We can also do something like this too. We can take photos of all of the products. We can upload the photos. We can print them and make some fanzines. Yeah, we can cut them out and stuff, make kind of collage, or maybe even digital collage. It was really easy to make this, just Photoshop everything, put it together, animate it. So I like this rotating mandala as kind of a metaphor for what's happening in our bodies. Because, like I said, we're not closed systems. We're very porous. We're very responsive with the environment. And everything that we consume, that we put into our bodies, but also everything that is around us can enter our bodies and form new combinations. So I kind of see this kaleidoscope effect is happening inside our bodies at the molecular level, and just showing that our bodies are always changing and always glitching, and there's no such thing as a fixed, body or gender. And I'm really interested in the cultural discourse of toxicities. How do we actually talk about toxicities? So this is a scientific publication that I found around 2016, where the scientists were hybridizing these fish, and then they accidentally created a hermaphrodite species, and then they called it a hopeful monster in the title of the paper, which I find really interesting, because why can't our bodies also be considered hopeful? Why is there so much shame or panic or anxiety about having a queer body? Because I'm always looking on the internet, and then I find these bloggers that are writing like, oh, like, I don't think it's right that the government is putting birth control pills in the water supply because it's making all the men gay. And we need both men and women to propagate the human species. So actually, we should talk about this instead of like, people crossing the borders. And I'm like, whoa, like, so we have like homophobia, transphobia, and even like xenophobia in the same like blog post, So I think it's like really easy, if you look at the cultural discourse, like a lot of it is like really problematic. Like even environmentalists are like petitioning the governors like, hey, like we need more regulation on the environment because, you men are half the men that your grandfathers were because of all of the feminization, like the molecules in the environment. And it's like, okay, like the environmentalists are trying to save the planet, but then the reason that they use is like homophobic. So it's kind of like, okay, there must be like a better way to have a discussion about this topic. So I call this the 3-step process for living in an increasingly queer world. It's kind of like a theater act. Like I was thinking like act 1, act 2, act 3. Like when I'm giving workshops, when I'm doing performances, I try to make it a sequence because the whole point is to neutralize the fear, right? So I felt like I needed to make something a bit more like an outline for neutralizing your fear. So step 1, toxicities. You live in an alien landscape that is colonized by hormones. Step 2, semiosis. You are already alien with plastics in your blood and in your urine. Step 3, subjectivities. Do you want to be more alien than you already are? And because I just talked to Sarah this morning and learned about the neo-dissidence project, I decided to add more slides. I'm sorry, this is the last project I'm going to talk about because, no, it's really interesting because I'm also interested in like genital morphology and how that's related to all of these toxicities. So lots of scientists have been using this measurement between the anus and the genitals and saying that if you have like this much distance, then that means you have higher exposure to microplastics. And actually they found the correlation. So they were measuring the distance in all these babies, and they were also testing the urine of the mothers. And then when there was a lot of exposure, they actually had a shorter distance. So I started thinking, okay, so the genitals are getting closer and closer and closer to the anus. And if you think about the genitals are the most gendered part of the body, whereas the anus is like the most universal because everyone has an anus. So it's kind of like these two points are meeting each other, so I think it's kind of interesting. And so the idea of this project is to create a queer feminist population study where all of the data is coming from like anonymous crowdsourced people, and this data is actually going to be 3D scanned genitals. So I created this installation, which is kind of like a doctor's office, but then the doctor is not there because the doctor is you. And so you sit in the chair and you are instructed on the monitor how to 3D scan your own genitals. And there's also like hardware for doing the scan, and then I also wrote the software with another collaborator. And this is kind of what the software looks like. So it's still like a work in progress, so it's not a finished project. But I purposefully asked for the gender identity instead of the gender assigned at birth, because it shouldn't matter what the doctor says about you, about your gender, just by looking between your legs. So I just asked for the gender identity. And then already I got some like critiques from people saying like, yeah, but then if you have this database, maybe it's good to put the gender assigned at birth in case like a scientist wants to like look at this data, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but then the whole point is to create this resistance against the tool of patriarchy and also the authority of science for defining normativity. So then why should we put the gender assigned at birth? So So I think it's interesting to imagine, like, what does it mean to define normativity from the bottom up instead of the top down. So that's kind of what this project's about. And then I also did like a live genital scanning performance in Vienna. I'm finished. Okay. So yeah, does anyone have any questions? Because me and Paula just like talked a lot. Did you want to show some videos, actually? Yeah, the Cyanovan. Yeah, okay, so I switch. I'm unplugging.
So, a bit of, following this idea of mobile labs and stable labs, we have, I was thinking, actually before I go to live to Calafell, it was with the idea to have a mobile lab inside a van. And then I realized this project, I don't remember now, I think it's 4 years old. And it was in like really different stages, but I can show you here some pictures at the beginning. And that one is, for example, with when I do public events. This was in France, and then people was just coming there. We were talking about the tool, sharing all the fun signs, and then just involve people in a. This was Art Labo in it's in France. I don't remember now. In the Orleans. There was in Bourges in mind. And okay, so now wherever I am, I have a really this, for example, was also me going to spread some spirulina to Berlin. We were working with spirulina in Calafell, so we were having the culture, I think, 3 years, no, 2.5, something also with Oskov here. And now I'm also working with the blue pigment the spirulina has, and this in Essen we were just mixing with diatom earth. Is the white thing here is diatom earth. This is a really easy protocol, I find it, to break down the cells of the spirulina and get this blue golden molecule from the spirulina that actually is like antioxidant and also works for treatment of cancer. And related with that, this was the things from the workshop. This is, related with that, I want to show a bit also one project that is still ongoing process, because this trans organs on a chip, I was having this idea to have like there is in medicine now, they make organs on a chip. So they make a culture of the cells and they put on a chip. So they can make like personal medicine, no? They call it, because if you grow your own cells on a chip, then you can check if you have, for example, you can check different extracts from plants, or this spirulina extract, the blue color. And then you can really do experiments like out of your body, so you are not going on doing animal experiments and so on. And this is here, I will read it because, actually it was just, it will be better understand if I read it. The speculative project tourism from BioTranslab, Transorgans on a Chip, seeks to blur the boundaries of categorized life and to dilute the lines of sexual differentiation. The project implements performance as experiential access to other knowledge in order to combine the immense of biocomplexity of life, using speculation to escape this capitalization. This hybrid performance traces the symbiotic interactions responsible in the creation of life, the hormones that suppose circulate as transit to a binomial aesthetic determinants. To critique this categorization, we must construct a transitional feature that allows us to rethink and reimagine transspecies and transsexualities. The transmaterial organism, unavoidable, challenges the biopolitical dimension of the term species and the process of specialization. Therefore, the performance will evoke a transient of ecstasy, in the literal sense, to stand outside oneself. The body becomes the interface that must be surpassed from the which to become a walker between walls, where disembodied the self, soul, mind, and psyche, can coalesce with supreme entities and assume an alternative identity by switching a gender at the molecular level, where the hormones interact. This hybrid entity between microfluidic device and bioreactor, so this technology uses like this microfluidic device and bioreactors in order to have the culture of the cells, and then you need to feed them with food or CO2 or whatever not whatever, but the medium they need to grow. So you need to have like a, I will show here how it looks like. So that one here is like I was researching, and then I was like finding like cervix on a chip. That was someone that was already doing this project, a small one. So here like we make like not an adaptation, but we were here and we start this in CERN. Then we were also like you were also there, and then Shashiko we were in France. And so this project for me is something like I want to try to mix the hormones in a phase of sexual differentiation, as they explain now in reductionism science. They say that when the hormones of the testosterone hormone appears, they make the gonads are before, no? And then when the testosterone appears, it makes this sexual differentiation. So I want to go in a previous state, like checking what is gonna be if we put just the same quantity, or just we put more estrogens that testosterone. So all of that we are now also exploring with this hybrid entity between microfluidic device and bioreactor. Okay. So in these different cavities, like I want to mix like the hormones and the extracts from spirulina. Why spirulina? Because I want also to think about how we can grow human cells from other kind of proteins that they are not bovine or animal proteins. So I'm thinking more on the way of growing it from this spirulina, because actually spirulina is like a cyanobacteria that is in the origins of life in Earth. Well, I mean, when life was going from sea to the Earth. So it's kind of speculative. I was having some resistance to do that, but matrix fault was not really. But then I was also doing autonomous residence, and also doing residence with my folk Bacteria in Lucerne, in URSS, in Gaudi Labs, really nice place where we develop many things with URSS. I mean, and these are a bit the traces. Now we have like that one you can blow here, and then you see these small blobs. You can really put the cells inside. But yeah, we have now to probably start again to do this. This is like the extraction of the blue. And this is like, this is in a gallery. This was like a biotrans lab here, like coming from Genepunk. This is like a workshop suitcase, and this is like future. So it's past, present, and future. And in this future is the transorganism chip that is already Now it's also like related with a project with, I mean, Adam Sarasti has a really nice project that is bacteria, you know. Sorry. Because we were just now in Zurich playing and doing things together. Like also Mary was there. And yeah, transgenic human genome alternative project. So now we are really like entanglement again in a new tentacular project that is gonna have like 10 directions, and one of the directions is gonna be like how we grow all these organs out of the body, because yeah, we want to go in these alternatives human genome. And this is gonna be like documented, actually it's gonna be like a tool for artists to think about future present worlds, about like how you can mix and edit genes and, I mean, like, you know, CRISP? Okay, and then, yeah. One more thing I want to say, yeah, this is like, yeah, I want to show the web page from Hackteria. I think it's nice that you see the collection of DIY biology open source art projects. So here is a huge line wiki. This means that you can really go inside and let's put something like we do together also, but many, like, I mean, this was, for example, first PCR machine. I mean, it's really documented, like you can replicate the thing, no? Most of the things, I mean, it's like really oriented of open source hardware, that we are also in a huge community of, international community of developers of hardware. And yeah, and I want to really, hacking science, well, this is like, yeah, other things. Probably, I put the video, no? We have time, or, yeah, we have, no? Okay. So now I want to show a video. It's like a last collaboration with an artist that she's from Portugal. The name is Diana Policarpo. I didn't met her before, but she was writing to me like he wants to visit me, and he wants to do some extractions from the ergot. So yeah, I think the video is better to explain what we were trying to reach, but it is also a process of research. Yeah, for me it was nice because she was also living abroad to Portugal as me. And at some point we come back to me, Galicia, and she in Portugal. She was just knowing about, I was doing all these kits about gynecology, so this project is also related a bit with gynecology on the Middle Age. What was happening with the ergotamine and all these molecules. So we are like, yeah, starting kind of like a new investigation, research. So I will put the video, and I think we are done. It's not, well, colaborativo. as conexións co transhack feminismo pois viñeron dadas por contextos específicos de colaborativos no que diferentes persoas que hackeaban o xénero ou que hackeaban tecnoloxía xuntábamonos e facíamos aí laboratorios comuns. Pois traballos a mellor que tiñan unha pegada máis individual, a xuntarse nunha rede de entramados e dicir, vale, coas cousas de bioloxía podemos comenzar, a parte de mirar nas plantas, xa teñamos mirado os fluxos de todo o corpo, tal, non sei que, entón xurdiu como a idea de traballar os aspectos da xinecoloxía autoxestionada, non?
Foi interessante tu voltares à Galiza e também trabalhar com a terra aqui, não é? Porque eu também senti que a partir do momento que voltei a Portugal e me interessei um pouco pela história do ergo, ter presença em várias histórias ligadas às plantações e à terra, às mulheres agricultoras que de alguma maneira estiveram numa espécie de zoom no momento em que a Europa tinha várias guerras, não é? Tipo, estamos a pensar em retomar um pouco o conhecimento desta planta, que acabou por ser invisibilizada pela descoberta do LSD em laboratórios, não é? Por esse processo de sintetização. Então, centramos nesses processos contínuos de sintetização, o que é que se perde pelo caminho, não é? História oral, o processo de transformação, o processo alquímico.
Fundamental para hacer laboratorio de química. pH, esto es muy feo. Mira, isto é da época da colecta dos laboratorios Sauter, Sociedade Anónima. Son pedaciños de corpo e cosillas así. Testículo, riñón. Aí tamén ten que vexiga, tiroides. Merda, non saquei tiroides, non? Está como un xogo. Xa se están despegando as coisas, Estamos, en realidade, sí, especulando de algo que pasou no pasado, como transportar isto ao presente, pero temos que ter claro se non hai un sustituto, se non hai unha cousa mellor, sabe o que quero dicir? Tal, máis con unha planta que teve problemas no ámbito da medicina por intoxicación e por todo. Mira aquí, estaba a procurar esta.
É interessante que esta planta é espontânea, tipo, é selvagem, então é como se autoplantasse sozinha, sabes?
Pronto. Daí as moléculas están abrindo, entón o proceso de extracción do alcaloide vai se facilitar, né? Facíanse, hai unha imaxen que non sei onde anda agora, pero sí, smell my finger.
Sí.
Para interpretar cales son a tipo de colonización dun microorganismo sobre outro no teu corpo, né? Da liberación dos free alcaloides, entón está tudo aí, né? O que vai facer isto agora é facer a extracción a través do solvente, que vai ser o alcohol, o etanol, que a xente vai poñer aquí, né?
nunca os cogumelos tiveron un contido recreacionista, senón que é un contido de reconexión coa terra, tal, non sei que, son usados no tradicional.
Temos com o nosso corpo, não é? Até muito tempo foi considerado como uma planta, não é? De repente não é,
Non,
um
porque,
reino animal.
de feito, eu acho que é un híbrido. Ten unha bombiña aquí dentro de auga, chego o circuito. Entón, isto é simplemente para refrixerar, vale?
É preciso pormos na posição?
É preciso estar en paz, isto como por dentro.
Sim, está seguro.
Aquí máxima potencia. Entón, a coisa é que cando isto este no punto de fusión vai vir por aquí polo tubo grande deste de aquí, vai entrar aquí e vai estar aquí. Entón a condensación vai facer que isto todo volva a baixar por este tubiño de aquí, vai subir tal e volta polo tubiño pequeno. Ese sistema, ves, chamase como percolation, percolación. Iso como que tarda agora 3-4 horas facer o proceso completo.
Ok. E a base do alcaloide fica toda na parte de baixo? Já está a ver a curva. A cor é linda.
Sim, a cor é linda.
E depois podemos guardar o resto do pó e uma solução já de extração. Agora temos dois tipos de remédio. A forma que encontramos para colaborar também partiu de fazer um estudo profundo da planta, do ciclo do parasita com o fungo e como é que esta planta se relaciona com a saúde da mulher. Eu achei interessante tu falares do plátano, não é?
Sim.
Tal como com a mandrágora,
Sim.
eram tratamentos utilizados por healers e pelos monges,
Sim.
pelos peregrinos, para tratar o ergotismo, não é?
Que non somos humanos de células, que o noso corpo está composto por auga, bacterias, fungos, o sea, non somos só humanos, non? Entón, o contido interespecies xa está inscrito cando nacemos, non? O que fai a cultura antropocéntrica é pensar que o humano é humano, e o fungo é fungo, e ten o poderío de clasificalo todo e poñelo como en casillas, pero un pouco como para poder entendelo, non? Entón, a desconexión iso que temos agora coa natureza, provocada polo sistema reduccionista da ciencia capitalizada heteropatriarcal, pois, bueno, desfeix todo tipo de conexión. Mira, a cuarta volta. Aí vai. The norms of free technology is like you can copy, paste, replicate, imitate. Pois sí. Eu fico como pensando, como non posso responder, estamos a facer un healing do futuro e tal, non sei que, e non teño como suficiente coñecemento para decir, veña, vamos facer iso porque iso vai funcionar. Sabes o que quero dicir?
Essa é a Marcia, tenemos Olha, é preciso pôr isto numa lamela.
No hay dolor. Esto vamos a ponerlo en un...
Precisas que eu ponha isso a algum lado?
Mariana, son 8 menos un cuarto.
Sí, vamos a hacer... Ti, Mariana, bueno, podes ir, porque vamos poñer iso nun bote e xa.
Agora que facemos? Levamos para jantar?
Agora temos unha luz auxiliar que antes non está. Mira, ahora podíamos... Esta la estaba buscando antes, pero es que son demasiadas cosas. Sí, es que... A ver... Ay, no, mira. About all we were showing. No questions. Okay. So I think we will like have a break, no, before we continue.
Yeah. So we're going to make the plates.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's have a break.
Yeah, I think.
Before we go to
No?
the lab.
Like.
Really? There's no questions? Wow.